Welcome. So what you see here is a data table which is also responsive, and this has been built with Bubble Flexbox Layout and a repeating group. As you can see, it has header titles, and I have intentionally kept the height of the table at a fixed length so that anyone can use the bottom part to add a new content, and the user can scroll through to check up on the new data. And also, once we shrink it down to a smaller device like a mobile, users still can just slide it and look at the whole table. And this is the one we're going to be using as our design to build this from scratch in Bubble. So let's get started. All right, so we are at our Bubble editor, and let's get started by adding a new page here, and we will call it Flex Table. Create. And by default, and I like it comes as white, and I like this to show grid. Okay, so by default the flex doesn't apply because it's still in beta, so you have to go upgrade it to flex layout. All right, so now we have a page based on the Flexbox. So we double click, and we're going to go ahead and give it a column layout, and we're going to give a 1200 width for our UI builder and a minimum of 800 so that we get to see the whole page. And also, as you saw here, this data is actually coming from a backend database, and these are all the user data. So here I just wanted to show you where the data is coming from. App data, user. So I've already added the data here, but one thing you have to notice is that I've added some of the custom fields, city, name, photo, and role, to this the default database, because normally it comes with just this much data: email, modified date, create date, and slug. And also we have to notice something, that privacy rule applied. So what this means is, if this is applied, then you are not going to be able to see this data publicly. You cannot pull that into the front end. So you have to go back to the privacy and remove it. For our project, we don't need that. So when you come back here, it actually says publicly visible. Make sure this actually says that, otherwise your data will not come on the front page. Okay, let's go back to the design. Okay, now that we have our page ready, so now let's get our content block, which is a group, and we're going to call it main content. Okay, now let's go remove the styles and give it a flat color, and we're going to choose a light blue background, maybe even a little bit lighter. Yeah, that should do it. And as we go, we keep coloring our groups so that these are distinguishable when there's lots and lots of group and parent child all over the place, right? So, and we can all change those back, that's not a problem. So that being done, now let's go to the layout, and we're going to give it also a column layout, because we're gonna put our content from top to bottom, and we use row when we want to add content side by side, right? Okay, so let's go back, and here we want to first remove the fixed width so that it expands from left to right, and let's give it a minimum width of 0 and minimum height of 0. Actually, let's maintain the minimum height and increase it by, let's say, 600 for now, so that we can actually, because if it's empty, it's not going to show up at all. Because now we have enough space to add content to it, and we can do whatever we like later on. On that note, let's just do a 780. So this way we get to see our original page and our content, so we can actually switch from them like that. This will make our job easy, and at the same time now we're gonna go ahead and give it a max width of 1200, and let's preview. You'll see what happens. Okay, so this is gonna be our content, so let's center this and preview. There you go. Now let's go back and start adding content to it. First, we're going to go ahead and add a text block. Let's choose H1 dark and call it table. Now remove the styling, center this, go to layout. Let's take out the fixed width, and the minimum width should be 0 and minimum height should be also 0. And now we're going to go ahead and add a top margin of 50, bottom margin of 50. Perfect. Let's do a preview. There we have it. Alright, so let's go back to our editor now and get started on the main part, which is a repeating group. Let's bring the guy in. First thing we do is call it, okay, actually let me first add a data source to it. As we showed before, the user is the data type. If we check here, so this is our data type user, and this is going to be our table we're going to pull the data from. So let's connect to it, data source, do a search for user, close. Boom. If this turns blue, we're good. Now let's open it up. No more fixed number of rows, and at this point let's make the height 200 so that we have enough space to add stuff to it, and we're going to keep this to a 1 column. Now let's go to the layout. Initially we're going to give it a row layout because we're going to be setting everything side by side, all the column headers and the data. And let's give it a non-fixed width so that it expands from left to right, a minimum width of 0, and in this case though, let's keep it a fixed height, and here we're going to give it a 450 pixels, just like our design, keeping it within this. And one thing to remember, removing the style and give it a flat color background, and at the moment we're going to keep it at white. Alright, so now we have to work on the container block, which let's call it card, but before that let's take a look at our layout here. For this repeating group, currently we have row layout, so everything is going to stack up from side to side. But if we look at the design, the container or card blocks, things are from top to bottom, right? So let's bring in our container, drop it here, and let's just call it name, because this will be our name item. Give it a column layout, and first remove the styling and give it a flat color, and for now choose a nice red background. There you go. A little bit lighter would be nicer. There you go. Good. Okay, so now let's set the most important part, which is our data source, user, and here we're gonna have current cells user, because this is actually getting from the repeating group that we previously set, and it turns blue. We're on our track. Now let's work on its width. Go to layout and open it up. No more fixed width. Let it expand from side to side all the way. Let's give it a minimum width of 0. And currently we're going to maintain this 250 height because we're going to be adding stuff to it. So now let's work on the header. Bring in the text item and let's choose H2 dark and remove the styling, make it bold and call it name and center it. Go to the layout, remove the fixed width, give it a minimum height width of 0 and minimum height of 0. So now it's only grabbing onto the content. Now let's give it a top margin of 20 and bottom margin of 20. And let's get a little bit finer control to it, or let's go a little bit higher, give it a 20. Alright, so now that our text is set for the header, and let's preview. There you go, looking alright. And this time what we're going to do, highlight this, the text, and do a Control-C and Control-V on it, because we want to pretty much maintain the similar styling. Only thing is we're going to take out bold and give it a size of 18 pixels. That's where our data is going to come in. And let's grab some dynamic data. Parent group user, and let's grab the name of that user. Preview. All right, looking good. Let's try to match it a little bit. Okay, so this gap is a little bit too high for me, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 10 pixel height for this one, 10, and bottom should be 10. Let's preview. Looking much better. All right, so things are looking good, but one thing to notice is if this is going to be our header, it is actually showing up in every row. That cannot happen, right? So let's go and fix that. Highlight this guy, and first thing we're going to do, we're going to eliminate the visibility at page load and add a condition to it. Start 1, and this time we're going to say current cells index when current cells index is 1, which means this cell index 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that, right? So we're saying whenever this current cell index is 1, only then make this element visible. Only for the top one. So let's preview. There you go. Now it's only showing up at the top. All right, so now that we have what we wanted, the header in the single row. Now let's go get our other columns. To do that, we highlight this, and as you know, we had this repeating group layout set to row. So let's highlight this guy, move this guy out of the way a little, and do a Control C and Control V. There you go. Now the reason this guy is not showing up is because we have actually turned it invisible. So if you want to see it again, look at this, just enable it like that, right? And this one, let's name it email, just like our second one, email, then role, city, photo, right? Okay, now let's change this guy to email and this data to user's email, and most importantly, let's change the color, give it something greenish. Beautiful. And that being done, let's preview. All right, so now we have two columns. In fact, let's do a inspect, and as you can see here, with the dev tool, we can just switch to from normal to responsive, right? So that's how I've been switching them. All right, now that you know how easily we just replicated from here to here, right? Just copy paste and changing this and that, right? So I'm not gonna bore you with that detail when I build these two columns, role and city, because they're exactly the same type, but we will come back and do this photo together. So that being said, all right, so now you can see we have 4 columns, and before we go any further, let me just show you a quick thing, because I think our background on the base plate or base container needs to match our design. So what we do, I have a Chrome extension called Eyedropper, so I can just use this to pick up a color from here. But for this to work, I have to get out of the responsive mode like this. Now let's use this again. Just click on the surface, and it picks up the color, and we can just cut it or copy it, sorry, and put it back to the responsive mode. Let's go back, go to our editor, highlight our container, and let's choose the background color, erase it, paste, and look at that. Let's do a preview. Kind of looks better. Just my opinion. You can put any color you like. I just wanted to match my design. Also, I wanted to show you how we can replicate colors and things just using Chrome extensions. On that note, let me just show you another one. Like this is one more. Here, I can collect any kind of lorem ipsum text for development purposes just from here. Just do a search on lorem ipsum on Google Chrome extensions, and you will find one. All right, now let's get back to our project. So this time we're gonna add the image column, right? All right, let's follow the same procedure. Control C, Control V, and make this visible. And name it photo. Give this a background color of light yellow, not even grayish, I think. Now change this to photo. But at this point, we're not gonna need this text one though. We're gonna go ahead and bring in an image element, drop it right here, highlight the text, remove it, and here, let's go dynamic image, parent group user, photo. And give it a roundness of 50. And also, I always forget this, but here, always add more processed with ImageX. This one will help you crop the image in case they are of multiple different type of sizes. As it says here, resize to fit the dimensions by cropping. So it's a very handy tool which will make all your images look the same. Close that, and now let's go ahead and give it a size. I'm going to maintain the fixed size and give it a 50 pixel width and maintain the aspect ratio of 1:1 and center it. That being done, let's preview. There you go. All our users are right here. All right, so we are almost at the end of our journey here. So let's work on a little bit of the responsive side. So now, since our repeating group has a row container or row layout, and all these are all following the Flexbox rules. So what's going to happen when we try to shrink it? It's going to try to shrink with us, but it's a long table. This is not going to work, right? So we followed all the rules so far to build this. Now we're gonna go ahead and make one little change. Go to this repeating group and change this layout to fixed. And immediately there will be some changes. Let's preview. Okay, so that we can adjust, but look what happens now when we try to shrink it beautifully, almost down to a mobile size, and user can easily slide through the table, right? And now let's do some last work on the look and feel. Go back, and here I calculated it before, so I'm going to try a few things. Let me add 135 as the row height, the height of the row, right? Okay, now let's preview. All right, so I'm gonna play around with a little bit and come back. All right, guys, so this is the style I'm actually looking for, because this is our target design, right? So after playing around with it a little bit, I achieved this, and I'm going to show you how. So basically, I just went back in and highlighted this, which is the group, this is the container, and here I have to set it to the height of 130, right? So you just have to, some trial and error needed. So all you do is 130 and going back to the repeating group and give it a row height of 135. 135 here, and in that header container layout, height 130. Let's do one more. Roll container, and let's just do a 130. There you go. And let's preview. All right, looking great. So these, I'm just gonna do them myself and come back. All right, there you have it, guys. I just went ahead and just set these to the specific height of 130 everywhere. And all I had to do on the repeating group side is to play around with the sizes a little bit, 135, 125, etc., etc. And thus we got our design all looking perfect, matching our original design. Also, now it is time for us to test it for responsiveness. Now let's go check it with the iPhone SE, which is 375. Okay, we can browse through like scrolling, and we can always look at it side by side. And let's go test it with a iPhone Pro 12, which is 390, looking great. And the last one would be Samsung Galaxy 8, which is the smallest, 360. At least that's what we always target as the bottom one, and we're still looking great and responsive. We have just successfully built a responsive data table using Bubble Flexbox Layout. And if you like this video, please smash the like button, and please don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please smash the like button and the subscribe button. This will help me bring more free contents like this to you every week. Thanks again.